All right, in this lesson we're going to be going over the characteristics of civilization. Now, previously we've been talking about what does it take to be what did it take for us to switch from, say, hunter-gatherer tribes into civilizations? Why did it take so long? Or at least how do we theorize why it took us so long to do so? And then one of the class starters I gave you guys after that is, could you explain what does it mean to be civilized? Or could you explain to someone else what it means to be civilized? Or what a civilization is? And do you yourself believe that you are civilized? Just going off of that, if you also remember, I at least in class, I showed a video clip. And I'll post in Canvas as well, this clip. Not that that matters that much, but it was a clip that at first didn't seem like it was even applying to the lesson at all. It was from Star Wars Episode 3 as General Grievous fighting against Obi-Wan Kenobi. And at the very end, Obi-Wan Kenobi kills General Grievous, kills him with the laser blaster, and then looks at the laser blaster and says, "So uncivilized." And the reason why I showed that is after our discussion with the questions that I just mentioned earlier, a lot of times when it comes down to it, what we think is civilized versus uncivilized comes down to a lot of just what is our perspective, or what is your perspective, or what is someone else's perspective. What is normal for what is around me versus what's normal for or abnormal compared to what I think is normal. I'm so civilized and you're so barbaric. Things like that. And a lot of times, yes, it is very perspective. But one of the things I did mention in that lesson too is that there are certain things that will always be there. Like if you have these things, your civilization, you will have these things always, and that's what this lesson's about. Is what are those things? So really quickly, here they are. Oh, if I can get them to come up. All right, there we go. Nope, wrong way. Okay. So organized governments, religion, jobs, social classes, art and architecture, public works, cities, and writing. So I'm going to go through these one by one and just explain how each one of them work and why they're all considered to be characteristics of civilization. They'll always be there. With a few of them you could argue that, well, you don't have to have that to be civilization. But the reason why they're on the list is they've always has been. And there's a few others where they're just always going to be there. They just will if you're going to be civilization. So start off with the first one, organized government. Just take a look at this, and in your mind, please answer the question, what types of governments are you looking at? Even if you need to pause the video, what type of government is being shown on the left? What type of government is being shown on the right? So now, the government being shown on the right, the king, we use the term monarchy for that. And just so you know, that's the most popular form throughout history, at least, of governments we've ever had under the various names you can give it, where just essentially one person has pretty much all the rule, or a small group of people have all the rule, but in some sort of monarchistic or autocratic or despotic, whatever word you want to give to it, totalitarian situation. I don't know if I can add totalitarian in there, but let's just stick. Sorry, if I'm making things confusing, I apologize. Just sticking with monarchy. That's been the most popular form. And I'm also getting ahead of myself a little bit. Please, in your notes, next to organized governments or under organized governments, is number one, you need to write down that the reason why it is always in civilizations is that it is there to provide peace and order. Again, one more time, that's what you need to write down. Organized governments provide peace and order. It doesn't matter what type of government they are, whether it's a monarchy on the right or what's on the left. If you haven't recognized that yet, that's the United States Senate, which is part of our constitutional democratic republic. Two very different forms of government, but they both serve the same purpose in the end, and that is to provide peace and order. Yes, there's many differences between the two outcomes. We could argue the positives and negatives of each of them, but, well, then we'd be turning this into a political science class. Not a bad thing necessarily, but we won't make this lesson any longer than it has to be. The main thing I want to get across to you guys is that's the purpose of government, is to provide peace and order. But the one thing I do want to say is that the reason why monarchies are the most popular, and this is where I was going in the beginning and I was getting ahead of myself, the reason why monarchies are considered the most popular is it's just the easiest. It's easy to say, hey, you seem capable. I like following you, so just tell me what to do, and I'll trust you to keep my world safe, my family safe, me safe, and hopefully we have a good standard of living and things like that. But if something goes wrong, we then can say, well, it's your fault. This wasn't me. You're supposed to take care of things. And that's, even if something bad happens, that's an easy way to deal with it. And the type of government that we have is actually a lot tougher. A lot of the responsibility we put on us as individuals, as the citizens. We can't, in the end, it's hard for us to really just unshoulder the idea of unshoulder the burden of responsibility and go somewhere else. I mean, yeah, you can in some cases, and again, I'm going into a little bit too much there. The idea is that our system is meant to put the burden on each of us as individuals to help provide the peace and order, through our voting, mostly, but also through just our civic engagement and just hopefully following the golden rule and stuff, things like that. Doesn't mean you don't have that in a monarchy, but again, in a monarchy, the responsibility is on the king's shoulders, whereas in our society, we do put more of the burden on us, but that is one of those things that we take for having a free society. I know I'm on a little bit of a soapbox right now, but hopefully that's making a bit of sense to you. So, again, organized governments are there to provide peace and order, no matter what type of government that may be. So, now the next one, religion. This is one of the ones that a lot of people like to think, well, we don't need religion, or religion doesn't have to be part of a civilization. We can be a civilized society. We can be an organized society without religion. And if we're talking about religion, the idea of like you have to believe in some sort of divine being or guiding hand of some sorts, like all the pictures I just brought up are representative by that, basically, by beliefs in the divine, then yeah, you'd probably be correct. You wouldn't necessarily have to have a civilization based off of that. But the definition of religion is this, and again, this is what needs to go in your notes. Religion is a system of beliefs. Again, one more time. Religion, the definition of it is a system of beliefs. So with that definition, even the idea of, say, atheism, the belief that there is no God, there is no divine guiding or creative hand in the world or in the universe, that it's not by design, essentially. It's more by happenstance. That is a system of beliefs. So under that definition, even atheism would count as actually a religion. So now again, I put mostly religion is what we're used to, but the reason why, I want to say what we're used to, what history is used to, and I guess what most everybody's used to is this idea there's some sort of divine hand involved, because that's what most of history has been. Almost all of history until really just the last 150 years has believed in some sort of a God. Whether that's like up here, Christianity, that's a Christian cathedral, either Protestant or Catholic. I believe that's Protestant, but I might be wrong. I think I put up a Lutheran cathedral there. Again, I could be wrong. The Kaaba, which is located in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, the number one holy site for the religion of Islam, in the statue of Buddha, representing the religion of Buddhism, and then down here, Greek mythology. And I call it mythology because no one believes it anymore, but 2,000 years ago, tens of millions of people believed in that type of stuff. Whether that's Greek mythology, Norse mythology, but Roman mythology and Egyptian mythology. So, all of these religions were part of the civilizations, and then many of these, three of the religions there are part of our civilizations today in the world. Now, why do we have religion and civilization in the first place, whether that be one of these or, say, atheism? Religion serves two purposes, basically. There's more, but two big ones, two main ones. And again, you also need to have these in your notes. First one is define what is right and wrong. Religions give us the idea of this is correct, this is incorrect. This is proper, this is improper. This is moral, this is immoral. You need to do this, you should not do this. And then the second thing that religion does is explains or attempts to explain the world around us. So, going to deal with both of those really quick. So, with the first example, establishing right, or with the first thing that religion does for us, establishing a right and wrong in societies. It's in our society, the Judeo-Christianity was the basis. I should say was and is, but might not be in the near future. The basis of right and wrong in our society. The Ten Commandments: Thou shalt not kill, Thou shalt not steal, don't commit adultery, honor thy father and thy mother. That has been a huge basis of the idea of establishing what is right and wrong in our society. Now, we have been drifting away from those Judeo-Christian values. A lot has to do with because other systems of beliefs have come up, namely one of them being atheism. And we've seen this move towards this idea that, no, we need to explain things through science, through the scientific method, trial and error. We can see what is right and what is wrong, or what is correct and versus incorrect through research, through study, through observation. And that way we can really find out what's going on, especially if you don't believe in any type of God, like, who is this person to say this is right, because I don't even believe that type of divinity exists. So I'd like to find out for myself. Anyways, so a little bit of a contradiction there, but we do have those systems of beliefs in our society. But we did start off with Judeo-Christianity, and it did establish right and wrong. Now, the good thing there is that whether you come from a Judeo-Christian background, or Islamic background, or a Buddhist background, or an atheist background, it's nice to know that in all those backgrounds, the concept of stealing, the concept of killing is wrong. And we can get into really little things where like, well, it's not totally the same, but yeah, it is. We can all get along because at least we believe that works. Now, if you have a system belief that says no, killing is okay, go ahead and do it, that would really put a wrench into things pretty fast. Things would go downhill pretty quick. Anyways, but that is, again, I'm using that as an example to show, yes, it shows right and wrong. In the past, a lot of right and wrong was, say, in the Roman Empire, and the ancient Greek city-states, or in the Persian Empire, a lot of it was put down to the gods. And it's also one of the reasons why a lot of leaders like to say, well, I am a divinity myself, so therefore what I say is right, and what I tell you not to do is wrong, and I am the sole foundation of that. There's some power for you. Now, going into the second one, explaining the world around us, or at least attempting to explain the world around us. I like to use the example of, say, a Greek mom back in ancient Greek times, sitting with her Greek kid, and her child looks up at the sky and asks, "Hey, Mom, where did the sun come from?" And this mother will explain to her child, well, you see, the god Zeus told Apollo, or Helios, depending which version of the stories we're going with right now, or which version of Greek mythology we're looking at right now, but tells the god, let's go with Apollo right now, tells Apollo, get in this fiery chariot and go across the sky. Therefore, he gives us light, and we can grow our crops, and he does this because he wants us to do well, and that's just how he shows that he actually does love us. And to that Greek kid, like, oh, okay. Even though today we know that's absolutely false, but to that Greek kid, it made sense. It explained the world around him, and now he felt like he had a little bit more control, a little bit more of an idea of like how things worked. He feels more comfortable with how the way things are. Yeah, there might be a threat, like, oh, what if Apollo gets mad at me? But that's the whole idea. At least he knows that if he can keep Apollo happy, doing the right sacrifices and things like that, prayers, obeisances, just whatever, then most likely bad things won't happen. And so therefore he then will follow what he feels like is right, going back to the first point I said earlier. Anyways, I hope this is at least making sense, but to reiterate one more time, when it comes down to it, societies, civilizations will always have religion. Always. When at least you have the definition of religion being a system of beliefs. And then that system of beliefs then defines what is right and wrong, and then also attempts or does explain the world around you. Now, the third characteristic that you'll always have. This is a definite. You will always have this. You can't have these and be in an organized society. Everybody will choose to do something. Like, you can't do everything. It's impossible to do everything. Now, we can do things to survive, yes, but if we're going to be an organized society and all of a sudden a lot of certain things need to be happening, like we're going to be farming, we need to be building this, we need to be protecting this, we need to be administrating over that, well, there's not enough time to do everything all at once if we're all going to be together. So then we start specializing in certain things, and there's your definition, by the way, for jobs. Specialized artisans, or people that specialize in doing certain things. I mean, that's easy. We just call it jobs. I just hope that's a no duh. I don't want to spend tons of time into this, but I will go back to an example I gave you earlier when I was talking about how we switched from hunter-gatherers to civilizations, the process of going from hunter-gatherers through the Neolithic Revolution into farming. And that is like, hey, one person, like I'm showing the farmer there in this picture, one person now can produce enough food that other people have time to get bored. And then all of a sudden figure things out. And then they realize that they can trade that. And then you realize you can specialize in it. It's like, I'm going to be a house builder for forever, and I'll keep building everybody's houses. And someone else thinks, well, I'll be the one that ranches. And another person thinks, well, I'll be the one that helps the rancher, and I'll do these certain things for the rancher. And I'll specialize in, I don't know, branding the cattle to make sure, all those other things. The reason why you brand cattle, you want to keep them from stolen, knows which one's yours, blah, 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 blah. So, anyways, I feel like I'm rambling too much here. Again, this is a no-duh thing. I hope you get it. But again, what needs to go in your notes, specialized artisans are just people that specialize in doing things and then trading their skills with others. So, now the next one. Social classes. This is another one that people would like to, and many people have said, you do not need to have in a civilization. But the more you could say we've tried to not have this, or say it doesn't need to be there, the more apparent it becomes in many ways. Again, sorry, that's a little convoluted, or I guess not being very clear. Let's just put it this way. First off, in your notes, put down that social classes, at least the definition, are ranks of people within a society. Again, one more time. Social classes are ranks of people within a society. Now, as I bring these two pictures up, I imagine your mind is doing certain things at the moment. You're automatically making judgments. And my guess is, might not be true for everybody, but I'm going to say probably pretty true for most all of you. As you're looking at these pictures, the lady on the left, you're probably thinking that she is very well-to-do. And then the kids on the right are not very well-to-do. The thing is that you're looking at that through the prism of the way you look at the world around, your own world. In our society, you could say that we base a lot of things off of wealth. I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. I know what we hope our society is like versus how we do look at things. But in the short term, at least looking at this example, in our society, I'm going to say if you have a lot of wealth to you, you're well-to-do. If you don't have much wealth to you, essentially stuff, then you're not well-to-do. And right when we look at these pictures, we just assume high class, lower class. The lady on, what I mean is the lady on the left, high class, the kids on the right, low class. But again, that's through our eyes. What if that lady on the left is living in a society where she actually views herself as low class? And what if the kids on the right are living in a society where they actually view themselves as high class? So just think about that for a sec. If you need to pause the video and think about it, feel free. But if you're getting this idea, it comes down to just your own judgment of the way you look at the world around you and how we define things. Again, ranks of people in society. That person is above me. That person is below me. And we're always doing this. And we could do this in multiple different ways. Let's say that in our system, or in our society, we get rid of the way we do it now, and we say we have no more social classes based off of, say, wealth. Okay. Are we all now equal? Not necessarily. There's so many other things that we can judge each other off. Well, I'm short. She is tall. I am ugly. That person is handsome. You are fast. I am slow. You are smart. I am not so smart. Or you are smart. I'm not so smart, but I'm smarter than that other person. We're always categorizing ourselves that way. Like, think about the last time you walked through the hallway and just started kind of judging yourself between all the people you're seeing through the hallway. By the way, I'm not saying this is a good thing to do, but we do it a lot. And yeah, that can become a very unhealthy thing to do if you concentrate on it way too much. But we do it, and we keep judging things, that way. So if we were to get rid of whatever way we judge ourselves today, and say in our society again, wealth, well then it would be replaced by something else. By the way, example in hand, society, civilization, yeah. To use an example here, the Soviet Union. They wanted to get rid of social classes, and they're definitely thinking social classes based on economics, like the idea that we're not going to have anybody above anybody else. Everybody's going to share everything. No one, we're all going to be equal as we possibly can. And come to find pretty quickly that wasn't necessarily the case. Aside from the corruption that happened, one of the major defining factors of your social class in the Soviet Union, when there was supposed to be, was your job. What job were you assigned? What job did you earn? What job were you tasked with or said that you were worthy of and other people were not worthy of? Social class right there. Same thing happened in communist China. So, anyways, I hope that's at least a good example. Once you take away one, it will be replaced by another. Social classes will always be there. Now, going back to what I said to go back to before, the way our society works on us, because I do believe we need to be talking about this just a little bit. We kind of just think things are the way they are. Well, I'm going to try to explain a little bit of why things are the way they are, but also how we hope them to be. In the United States, the way we hope our social classes to be based off of is what we like to call a meritocracy, or the idea that you earn what you get through hard work. You gain a standard of living, a sense of being well-to-do that is deserved. And the word we call this is merit. Like, you merited that. Good job. Well done. Keep it going. You can do this. Keep working hard. We get those stories, those things all the time. We hear those phrases all the time. Because we like to think that if you do put in the effort, you will essentially be rewarded, or at least attain that idea of just a good standard of living, or I guess standard of living probably isn't the best way to phrase it, just the life that you want to live because you're working towards that life. Now, is that true across the board? Is that really the way our society works? Again, I'm not going to get into this. Yeah, there's things that poke holes in it, but that is the hope, and that is the dream of where it goes, is that you have control of your life and you can make of it what you will. So therefore, if you do make great decisions, then yeah, your life is going to be different, and most likely a lot better than someone that makes very poor decisions. So, and again, that's what's called a meritocracy. And with that, we get what's something called social mobility, meaning that through those good decisions and bad decisions, or the risks we take, we can go up and we can come down. Example I like to use is the music artist MC Hammer, someone who I absolutely loved when I was in junior high. This is kind of dating myself, back in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. But back then, he was a guy that, he came from a very, very poor situation and then worked incredibly hard, did very well for himself, went very high, but then he wasn't very good. Just long story short, doesn't do very well with his money management. And then he goes way back down, and he's just one of those examples of bottom to top to bottom. And I'm not exactly sure where he is now. I hope he's doing well. I imagine that he's coming back up, or is back up. At least I would hope his life is going well right now. Anyways, I hope that at least is a good example there. But I guess at the end of this, basically what I'm trying to say is that social classes will always be there. If we're going to have large groups of people around each other, we're always going to have things that define us. We're always going to have ranks in society defined off of something. So hopefully whatever we define ourselves off of will allow us to feel like we deserve that spot in a way, that we have merited it, that it's quote-unquote fair, at least in that sense. That you have control over your situation, that you're not just born into it. And by the way, this might be explaining too much, but social class systems that you have through most of history are what we like to call caste systems, where you're born into something and you're not allowed to change. No matter what you do or what you merit for yourself, you are that way no matter what. Again, this video is already going a little bit too long, and we still have other things to go through. So if you have more questions on that one, please come ask me in class or maybe email me. So at least I hope I've explained this well. Societies and civilizations will always have ranks of people within society. Now, the next one. This will be much quicker to explain. Art and architecture. What you need to put in your notes is the way a civilization expresses itself. This is one of the ones where you could say, no, a civilization does not need to have its own unique art and architecture. But every civilization does. This is just one of the ones that just always happens. And that's a good thing. It's a very good thing. In fact, one of the signs that a civilization is going to be on the decline is when you see the arts starting to flounder. Meaning that we're so busy with all these other things going on, we just don't have time for art. We don't have time to, we don't have the time to go into that very much, or to buy into it and things like that. That is a sign that civilization is starting to go a little bit downhill. But yeah, getting off track again. I'm sorry. But again, art and architecture is a way civilization expresses itself, and it's also a way you can identify it. Like the picture on the left, Greek civilization, ancient Greek civilization. The picture on the right, modern Western civilization, specifically the United States, American civilization. You get into paintings, Renaissance Europe, and the civilization at that time, ancient Egypt, if you look at that. I probably should be letting you guess this as they come up. And this I love to show because it's just, well, it's weird. Sometimes you're like, what civilization is that? Who identifies by that one? Well, I guess Spain, kind of, and France a little bit. Depends on which ones wants to claim Picasso. I guess this is just me saying I'm not a big fan of Picasso, and sometimes things are just a bit weird. Art can just be a little bit weird. But anyways, moving on. For those of you that are Picasso fans, I apologize. I do know a lot of people that are huge Picasso fans. I'm not one of them. Now, public works. What you need to put in your notes about public works is that they are how a government they're what a government provides for the needs of the public or needs of the people, or what a government does for the people. And an easy way to see public works is just look at anything that says public in front of it, at least in our day. Public schools, you guys are in a public work right now. Public sewage systems, public roads, public parks, public libraries. Did I say that one already? I can't remember. Anyways, but these are all just things that the government provides for the benefit of our society. That's what I meant to say earlier. Public works, please put this on your notes. Public works are what the government does for the benefit of society, or the benefit of people. So, and they're nice to have, but those are all public works. Now, last up, cities. I need to fix this PowerPoint. What you need to write down for cities is they are centers of trade. Again, I'm noticing I'm very much on this kick of like ancient Greek civilization versus modern Western or modern American civilization. I probably could have been a little bit more thoughtful in putting other civilizations in place. I'll just go with it now. I'm sorry. But in both these, the whole reason why we have cities, again, like I said earlier, have in your notes, they are centers of trade. Now, this is also something you can say, you don't need to have in a civilization. You can be a civilization and not have a city. You can do it. But every civilization has always had it, and it's hard to think of a civilization without cities because they're so dang convenient. This is one of the reasons why I asked you the question in class, or the bell, or the class starter in Canvas and in class. Why is it so much easier to live in a city than out in the countryside? And just the simple answer is it's just convenient. In every way, shape, or form, it's just convenient. I personally live close enough to walk to a grocery store and back easily. Like in a half an hour easily, even if I'm carrying bags in both arms, like I can be there and back, and like I could be there and back in a half an hour. Or maybe if I'm not buying enough stuff for 2 bags, I'm really quick about it, maybe a half hour. But yeah, I could do that. Most of us live within like 5 to 10 minutes driving distance of something, even a convenience store that has a lot of good things. But there might be some of you, and I know many people have lived in places where going to the grocery store is a once a week, sometimes once a month deal, and you really got to plan around it. Have your list in place. Make sure you have that freezer in the back of the car to keep your stuff cold on the way back, because it could be an hour and a half drive to go get your stuff. If you're thinking that sounds a bit weird, yeah, there's a lot of people that live in that situation in the United States today. My sister actually, she lived in a place that was in between Vegas and Mesquite, Nevada, and it was basically an hour drive each way, and they had to plan. They only went about once a week, so it's just convenient to be there. Now, when we say centers of trade, well, trade is one of those words that just seems almost like ephemeral, like trade. What's that? Everybody keeps talking about it. Well, literally, yeah, trading. I'm trading you something. Like, I'm giving you money for that. Or, hey, I will give you this. I'll give you my plate for your bowl. Just centers of trade. Places where you can go to do that and know that there's going to be lots of other people doing that. The example I like to use, at least here in Utah, is like, say everybody in Utah Valley are herders, and everybody in Salt Lake Valley are farmers. Well, then you meet at the point, and then like once a month they always meet at the point of the mountain or something like that, and then they trade. Well, what if at one point the herders from Utah Valley can't make it, and the farmers are like, where are the herders? We want our stuff. We need our cheese. We need our leather. We need our meat and things like that. Our standard of living is going to go down because of this. I totally lost my train of thought. It is a little bit late tonight that I'm making this video, and I apologize. I realize I'm rambling too much, and I'm gone on a half hour. Wrap this up really quick. Basically, this is where you get middlemen coming in. That's where you get, like, if you have the farmers there and the herders aren't there, then you have someone else there saying, hey, leave a bunch of wheat here. I'm just going to, out of every 100 bushels of wheat you give me, I'm just going to keep one as like the price for at least holding them for you. And when the herders come up, I'll give them the wheat and I'll keep their stuff for you when you come back. And all of a sudden you get the beginning of what you like to call, say, a general store, or today they look like Walmarts. One-stop shop where you can just, people that make things can just put it there and know it's going to be taken care of, and they know that say Walmart or that general store is going to take a cut out of it, meaning like, hey, I'm going to take my little bit for doing this for you. But man, it's so much more convenient to do that, and you'll probably sell a lot more even that way. You'll still make a lot more money doing it that way than if you didn't go through that middleman, that store. So I hope I explained that well. I don't feel like I rambled that a little bit too much, but I hope I explained this a little bit well. That you don't need cities, but they will always be there because they're just so dang convenient. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is writing. And we actually already talked about writing in the last video a little bit, as well as in class, talking about how it's a building block of civilization. So now it's like we're talking about it again as a characteristic. Well, yeah, it's both a building block and a characteristic of civilization. And writing does two things. The main one is it's a way of keeping records. That's what you need to write in your notes, that writing is a way of keeping records. But writing also serves a lot of times the same purpose that art and architecture does. You can identify a civilization of it. In a way, it's a way a civilization expresses itself. When you look at these pictures, what civilization is there on the left? What civilization is there on the right? And by the way, the answers are on the left, Chinese, on the right, Mayan. So, anyways, this is going to finish up the lesson for the characteristics of civilization. If you're listening at the end of this, I thank you for sticking with me. I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you in the next one.